What is up, Envoys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be giving an impromptu overview of the new armor attunement system that came with Preludes 13. At the core, basically all armor stat now scales with a virtue. As you can see on this particular chest piece that we're looking at, the Steel Singer's Stitchy Wicks, it has a virtue requirement similar to how weapons have and have had in the past. And like with weapons in Preludes 13, that virtue requirement has no negative effect. It does not decrease your armor when you're below the requirement. The requirement is simply the minimum amount of virtue you need to start scaling your armor up more. Now, for many envoys, it may feel silly, feel restrictive, feel like you're being forced to use certain armor. And to be honest, that's really not the case, in my opinion. I feel that this really overall is a buff to armor as a whole. It gives more reason to use varieties of armor with your builds. But it's definitely, it is a lot. And if you're a newer player who doesn't have a whole lot of options, it can be a lot. Now, for the most part, I haven't seen any drastic, massive, like nerfs or changes to our armor's base stats. For the most part, they seem pretty much the same. The big thing just being that they attune with armor now. I have seen some discussion being in regional chat or whatnot that some people would prefer if we didn't have virtue requirements and virtue scaling at all with armor, but just that we had set bonuses. I think we should have both. With this system now, I find myself using an entire set more than ever before, for the most part. So like right now, the build that I have on is a complete spirit build. It is on Tethrin, but that's just because I'm trying to take advantage of my wild variant and base variant being maxed up just to see what things are like with the most amount of possible virtue points available to me for right now. And I am using the entire Steel Singer set, being all in on Spirit. It is by far the strongest, the highest total armor score I have been able to get with Spirit in particular. And to give you a brief idea what other builds and other virtues may look like, well, we have our Mendicant King set on Tethrin. This is a more traditional Tethrin build. I'm using a Spirit and Courage split because I want to take the most advantage that I can out of Felist, out of Call of Ancients. Now, Felist does feel a little different. It feels a little weaker than it did before, but that's not a bad thing. It feels more in line. Now, this doesn't change the fact that for the most part, even in Koga, if you play correctly, you're deleting Nagari. You're still deleting Nagari. It's just much more in line. It's a little bit more nuanced, a little bit more skilled. It has that room for skill expression rather than just being a delete everything button. That aside, back to the thing we're here for, armor. Mendicant King's armor is a Courage Spirit split. Since I am using a Courage Spirit split of my Virtue Prisms, the best thing I'm able to get high armor score is the Mendicant King armor. I feel like those last couple sentences maybe didn't make much sense. Hopefully it will in a moment here, because if we look at our max courage option, we are nuking our options for sidearms, going full in on courage. In fact, if we just put that on, we'll see that pretty much the best option for me currently is the Wild Tethrin's Thrice Spurns Flyblades. They are objectively the best option. And while, yes, I could still absolutely use my ODX and be fine, and everything will be okay, It's just one of those mental things where you're not getting the most that you could out of what you're running, but it's okay. Now, max courage is still the best thing for max armor, for max health. And of course, if you're going into a really heavy courage build, most likely you're going to be doing melee. And so it makes sense that you want to have more health, more armor, being up close, really in there. Now, the one thing we are losing out on a bit with this is our magic resistance. We will feel hits from magic a bit more, but in terms of physical hits, we'll be feeling very comfortable getting up in there. Now, even if I go to what I've been using just because it's what I like, you'll see that still the magic, it's lacking just a little bit. And we're losing 10 points of physical resistance just because. But I'd rather have better damage. I'd rather have better cooldown on my Arcanics and have more freedom to have scaling regardless of the sidearm that I'm using. So now if we take a look at a Grace build, you can still get really, really high armor value, armor score. And if you really take a look at my two best options for prisms to use with this armor setup, the only thing that's really changing is how my particular resistances are distributed. So if we go all in on Grace on this build, putting as much extra damage as we can into our Juniper, I have more stability, a little bit less physical, a little bit less magic. If we go with the split, in order to have good cooldown and better usability out of the two Arcanics, which I want to take advantage of with this build, we have a little bit more damage resistance for both magic and physical, but a bit less stability. So far, Spirit has seemed to be, I'm going to say the weakest, but really you're at 87 armor, that's still a lot. You still have very good armor protecting you, like you're still going to feel pretty comfortable. You definitely have to be a little bit more mindful. But you're going to be okay. Like, it's going to be okay. And there's a lot of just interesting, weird things with this. And I like I said last night with my just general P13 initial thoughts, it's, in my opinion, largely a mental thing. To newer players that don't have a ton of armor options unlocked yet, it is going to feel bad that you're not able to get as much armor as others might be able to. But it gives you more to go after in the game. There is absolutely more variety of armor to use now. Depending on what build you're using, you're going to want to have armor that really matches with it, that really matches with those virtues, really aligns with your virtues and everything. And there's a lot of like thematic stuff there with that goes beyond the mechanics of the game and more into the world of the game, but that is besides the point. I do not yet have the Wizard set to see if it is any better for Spirit builds than the Steel Slinger set, but so far the Steel Slinger set has been the best thing I have saw. So if we look at a build I am keeping in the back pocket for when they fix my boy Bromius, it's a completely courage build, going all in on my Rump Thump because it's an ability I love so much. I love the Rump Thump. It's just fun, right? 102 is a massive armor score. 50 physical resistance is insane. 24, you're going to be feeling those magic hits a little bit, but it's not that big of a deal. And one thing to keep in mind with these armor scores you've been seeing, regardless of the builds that I've shown, is that armor score currently does not even include the totems that give you extra armor. I am pretty confident the totems are working. They just aren't reflecting in your armor score in inventory. That is something we'll address when we go into an even longer video than this one, going over how armor really is feeling and working right now. But that is something that is going to take time. I need to have the latest set available to me. At least I would like to have the latest set available to me. But overall, it's fine. It's good. It's a step in the right direction, like I said, with weapons and everything yesterday. Um, and I really feel that while people may feel more restricted or may have feels bad for not having as much armor as others, like just go grind, get in recruitment chat, and get some boss shares going with people. Get those quotas going. It is a good thing. This is overall a buff to armor. So to end out our intro to the new armor attunement in Soulframe, what I would like to do is simply take some hits from some enemies and show you the benefit of scaling your armor up regardless of what set you are using. Okay? So we're at max health. We're going to go up to this group. We're just going to let them hit us a bit. Take hopefully a magic hit. Okay, he missed. Sucks for him. But as you can see, like this is a pretty large group. We've taken a good amount of hits, and like we still have a good amount of health. We've only just now gotten down below half. So I'm gonna run away so I can change up my stats and armors, and we can compare. But like armor does a lot more than you think, for sure. There is absolutely a benefit. There's a massive benefit to having armor that gets scaled highly regardless of your build, regardless of your virtue. Which, yes, as we've said, like that's going to feel restrictive to some of you, but you're going to have more reasons to use different armors rather than just using the same armor all the time. It brings more depth to builds and whatnot. So if we just simply turn off all of our armor scaling, as you can see, there is no loss from not hitting my virtue requirement. I can still use the armor if I really like it, but we're not getting any added bonuses. And now, as you can see, we've gone from 90 total armor score down to 30. And as we leave and go out here, I'm going to spend some time at the end of this video explaining just a little bit how armor works in this game. And for every single point of a particular armor score that you have, that is 1 damage blocked. So if a particular enemy can't do, let's say, 50 damage, they're going to appear as a red X to you. Not a red X, a black X. That's why, like, when you see enemies, you see that? When you see enemies that have the black health bar and have an X, or a boss that has the gray metal health bar, it's because you don't have enough damage to fully negate how much armor they have. Now, that doesn't mean your weapon's bad. It doesn't mean you need to level up your weapon more, even, necessarily. What it comes down to is maybe you're not doing your gameplay loop right with your abilities and getting damage buffs from, let's say, Fellist or whatever. There's lots of ways to deal with that. But at the core, what it means is you don't have enough damage to properly get past their armor. So we've done Tethering, Courage, Spirit, 90 armor score. We're going to go now to my all-in on Spirit and do a comparison from Courage, Spirit, meant to contain armor is basically Courage armor, to all-in on Spirit. And yes, we will do Grace as well. So this is fully in. Look at that. Look at that. How big. Now that was a heavy attack from him. So let's see if we can get a light attack from this other guy. As you can see, the light attack, like, it still blocks it pretty well. And look, I'm dead. I am dead. And that also shows you a little bit that even though with Spirit armor you do have better than you would otherwise, it absolutely does fall behind a little bit. That's my initial impression with spirit armor, is that it absolutely does fall behind just a little bit. And of course, those are physical attacks. So when you have lower physical armor rating, it's going to be easier for them to get through. That's just how it works. But if we go on Grace now, as you can see, that physical hit, blocking it relatively well. We're not, you know, I have pretty decent resistance to it. I'm taking an okay amount of hits. There's Orendal messing things up. But as you can see, like, you can see directly, going from all in on spirit armor to all in on grace armor with not even that much more total armor rating. And we're gonna eat this. It might kill me. We're living longer. We have more armor. We can take more hits. And of course, this isn't the most in-depth test. This isn't the best test, but it's just something that shows you where spirit feels behind a little bit compared to courage, even compared to grace. But also the fact that, like, these things do have an effect. There is a huge effect from your armor, and how your armor is definitely something to consider a lot more, especially if you're at the point where you're doing a lot of kojas, trying to get the rest of your runes and whatnot. So now if we go completely in on courage, giving us the most physical resistance, a little bit less on magic potentially, and we find one last group here. Now this is the only build that I've had that doesn't straight up use an armor set. We did talk about earlier in the video how set bonuses would be great, and when I said that for the most part I found myself using a full set, that's been pretty apparent with my Tetherin, with my Grace build, my Spirit build, that we're just straight up using an armor set. So if they buff our armor ratings the way they have, but also give us some sort of set bonus that gives us some other benefit and other aspect of gameplay, like that, it would just be really cool. It'd be really cool. So as you can see there, with our full-on courage build, we're able to take quite a lot of hits. We're only a little below half. Took a couple magic hits. We did not take a heavy attack there, but courage is by far the strongest for physical armor resistance. So that, Envoys, has been your initial overview of the new armor virtue system. Throughout that video, I hope you got a little bit of an idea of what the best armors are to use, or what maybe you will want to be aiming to grind for as you dive deep into Preludes 13. Thanks again for watching. Subscribe, drop a like, drop a comment if you feel inclined to. Ask some questions or drop your feelings about what you think about the new system. Now, I do stream a lot on Twitch, so shout out to that. There will be a link in the description. I have about 5 Preludes codes from my Paragon pack that I am planning to give away on Twitch. So definitely pop over there if you see me live and try and get in on one of those giveaways. If there's no one hanging out in chat and you pop in asking about a code, you might just be lucky enough to just get one. So head on over. Thanks again for watching, Envoys.